Hey, hello, and welcome to my Flask tutorial. In this video, we're going to be building a simple blog application called your blog. We'll be able to add a blog post. So let me quickly add a blog post to show you. Be able to submit the blog post. Once you submit the blog post called Python, you'll be able to get the list of blog posts that you have created. So you can see I have Git hooks here, Java, and Python. We'll be able to edit each blog post that we have created, so you can see Git hooks. So I can also update it to Git hooks and then submit it. So you can see after we have created it, it's actually updated the blog post. So here you can see Git hooks. We would also be able to delete each blog post. So let me quickly delete the Git hooks. Once I click on the delete button, you can actually see it deleted the blog post, and that's basically what we are going to create in this tutorial. Now that you have a brief overview of what we are going to build, let's dive right into the video. Alright, I would assume you have basic knowledge of Python and HTML before watching this video. So the next thing we need to do now is to create our project folder. So over here you can see I'm in my desktop directory, and this is where I'm going to create my project folder. To create my project folder, you need to run mkdir ublog. So like I said earlier, ublog is the name of the project which would actually be working on, and mkdir means make directory. So what I need to do next is to cd into ublog project. So cd means change directory, and cd into ublog. And over here you can see I'm in my ublog directory. So the next thing I need to do is to create a virtual environment. So this virtual environment would help us install our pip packages right inside of it, and it will avoid installing those packages directly into the operating system. So to create a virtual environment, what you need to do is run python -m venv, so venv, then the name of the virtual environment you want to create. So I'll give it env, and this would create the virtual environment for us. So right here, you can see it has created a virtual environment for us. And the next thing we need to do is to activate it. So to activate it, you need to run env/script/activate. So with this command, it will be able to activate the virtual environment we created earlier. So if you are using command prompt, it will be / instead of the /. So over here, you can see I have activated my virtual environment, and you can see this green text called env. So the next thing I need to do now is to install Flask itself using the pip package manager. So pip install Flask. So this command would install Flask, and yeah. So over here you can see I've installed Flask successfully, and the next thing you need to do is to open this project right inside of your code editor. And for this project, we'll be using VS Code. Alright. So over here you can see I've opened my project inside of VS Code, and the next thing we need to do is to create the file where we'll be configuring Flask. So what you need to do is to click on the new file icon to create a new file and call it app.py. So after creating the new file, what you need to do now is to import Flask. So to import Flask, you need to run from Flask import Flask. So after importing Flask, you need to add app is equal to Flask _name _. So mind you, this is just a basic configuration of a basic project. And what you need to do next is to add a route. So add app.route, the first page, and add a function under the route. So def index. So we want the index page to return just hello yellow, hello yellow, and after that we need to add if double underscore name double underscore is equal to double underscore main double underscore again, and app dot run debug is equal to true. So this is just a basic setup of the Flask project, and what this app.route does is basically this is the route where you can access the return hello YOLO. So it will be you can access it through the index page. That's the first page, and what this function actually does is it returns hello YOLO. So as you move on, you will understand what I'm trying to say. And what this does here is to actually make the app run. So what you need to do now is to run your project. So to run your project, you need to open your terminal and run python app.py. So right here, you can see my server is on and I can access my project through localhost port 5000. You can copy that and open your browser. All right. So here in my browser, I just need to paste the localhost port 5000 and open it. So once I open it, you can see it returned hello YOLO. So now we have successfully set up a basic Flask project. We can now head over to some advanced aspect of Flask. All right. So earlier we were able to set up our Flask project and also create the first page for the Flask project, which was the index page. Now we need to actually set up a database that we're going to use to store data and also create the models for the blog. Now, for us to create a blog or create a database, we need to install a package called Flask SQL Alchemy. So this package will help us configure the database and also create the database. Now, the first thing you need to do is to actually install it, and which you require to say pip install Flask SQL Alchemy in your terminal. And always remember, make sure your virtual environment is opened. You can see mine is opened. And the next thing you need to do is to actually run it. So once you run it, it will actually install Flask SQL Alchemy for you. You can actually see that I've already installed it and the requirement is already satisfied. So now let's move on to actually configuring and setting up the database. The first thing you need to do is to import Flask SQL Alchemy. So you can see from Flask SQL Alchemy, import SQL Alchemy. So after importing it, you need to set the configuration. So to set the configuration, you actually need to say app.config. So mind you, all what I'm writing here, you don't need to actually cram it. You can actually check out the documentation for Flask SQL Alchemy. You would always find it there. So what you need to say here is SQL Alchemy underscore database underscore URI. After saying this, we need to now specify the location of the database. So for this video, we'll be using SQLite database. I feel it is the best database for this tutorial. So you can also use other database like Postgres, MySQL, and the rest. So to set up your SQLite database, you just need to put it in a quote and say SQLite. Then set the path for where the database will be located. So I want it to be my absolute path called ublog.db. So you can also give it any name you want. You can give it blog.db, any other name you want. So after setting this, you need to set up the final configuration, and you say with app underscore context. Then you now add db is equal to SQL Alchemy, then app. So this is all the configuration for our SQLite database. And the next thing we need to do is to actually create the model for the database. All right, so I skipped something here. It was supposed to be SQL Alchemy. So AL, Alchemy database URI. So to create a model, it will be a class first. So you can say class, then the name of the model. So the name of the model will be blog. We'll be using the db.models. So for every blog post, they always have their unique ID, their title, the content, and also the date created. And some other blogs do have the images and others. So the first thing we need to add here is the ID, which would say db.colon. Every ID is always an integer, so we'll be using db.integer. Then we'll set the primary key to true. So after this, we need to also add title. So the title would always be a string. So db.colon, then db.string. Then we need to set the amount of words. We can set the amount of words that will be in the title. So I just want it to be 100. And also nullable is equal to false. So after setting this, you can also copy this for the content. And so I can just head down here and edit the name to content. It will also be db.colon. The content is always string. It's always a string. The amount of letters that will be there can be 500 and above, any one you want. Also, nullable equals false would always require the user to enter the content, the title also. And now we can also add the date created. So for the date, we can also say db.colon. This time around, we'll be using the date time. So date time. And we can set the date time to a default of UTC now. So to do that, you'd actually need to import the datetime module. So from datetime, import datetime. So after importing it now, you can now set the default. You can set the default to datetime .utc now. So this is basically how we can create the model in Flask, and you can see how easy it is to do. So the ID, we have the title, we have the content and the date. Now the next thing we need to do is to actually create the database from our shell. So what you need to do is to open your terminal and say CLS. So mind you need to save your work after making those changes. And the next thing you need to do is to enter Python. So for some of you, it will require you to say Python 3. For some of you, it will require you to say Python, just Python. And the next thing we need to do is to import app. So from app, import app, and also the DB. So now you can see some changes were made to my folder. You can see we have something called instance here and also this. Now the next thing you need to do is say app underscore context dot push. So after doing this, the final command you need to enter is db dot create underscore all. So this will help us create the SQLite database. And once I say enter and probably open my instance, you can see we have YOLOBlock.db, which was what we added here. So we have successfully created the database and the model for our blog. And the next thing we need to do is to start creating the pages and also the functions for the blog. All right. So earlier, we were able to set up our database and also write the model structure for it. So right here, I'll show you how we can render HTML content inside of the browser instead of displaying text. So let's dive right into it. Right before creating the templates and rendering HTML contents, I'd like you to update your blog to this way. So add a function right under your model. What this function will do is it will render after creating each blog post. So we need to return a string. So you can see blog percent sign R, then close this one. Then outside of it, another percent sign self dot hide. So each time we create a blog, also return the string. And yeah, we're done for the model. So you can save your work, and what next we need to do is to add the template. So for you to add a template, so you'll be able to render HTML content, you need to create a new folder. So once you click on the new folder icon, you can actually give it the name of templates. Make sure the name is templates and done. So after giving the name of templates, this is where you'd actually create your HTML files. So any amount of HTML files go in here. So the first HTML file we're creating is called index.html. All right, we're going to have multiple pages, and I'll show you what we need to add more. So the first thing would be doc type, and here comes the head. Also, here comes the body. The right side of the head, we need just the title. So we need just the title, and the title will be called your blog. And right inside the body, and just render probably h1 tag here and say hello to blog. So see, so how can we render this in our view? So what we need to do next is to actually import render on the template here. So the first line here, you need to just add your render underscore template, you can see, and save. So once you save, you can head back to your index route, and so instead of just rendering this plain text, you can clear it out and add a render underscore template, and now add index.html in there. to index.html. Right here you can save your work and make sure your server is on, and here you can see my server is on, and the next thing you need to do is to open your browser to confirm it. All right, so here you can see I'm in my browser, and you can see we're actually rendering the h1 tag here. So this actually works, and I can reduce text size to the normal size. So I just want you to can see. Now we can head back to VS Code and probably add other pages. All right, so over here you can see I'm in VS Code, and now let's try add other pages. So to add other pages, you can just click on the template, click on the new file icon, and we can see we need the update.html page. So earlier when I was showing you the demo, we had just two pages, which was the index and the update page. So right inside of the update page, we can also do a similar thing to this one. So what we need to do is to just copy information here and add it to this page. And also we can say hello update, right? So let's come to think of it. So what if we have 20 pages, right? We have to do this thing repeatedly, or we can find a better way. So Flask actually provides a better way of doing this without replicating the information in each of files. And let me quickly show you. So you can create a new file here inside of the template called base.html. So once you create base.html, this is where the basic information that other pages need would contain. So here I have my basic info, and right inside of it, I can add here the block head, also end block, then sign. So what this does is this is actually a Jinja 2 templates language. I would also link the documentation. So what this I'll link the documentation down to this. So what this do is this enablers actually make sure the basic information is in one file, and we can access this basic info other files. So instead of saying h1 tag here, you can see block head, just like we did. So you can see block head or block body. So this would be block body instead of block head. And so you don't need to cram all this. You can actually just check the Jinja 2 templating language that Flask uses. So we can also see end block here. Fine. So here we can just save our work, and you can see our base.html contains just all the information, right? So what we need to do now is now access those block head and block body and access it in other files. So now you can just click on your index.html and clear all this. So once you clear all this, you can now extend the content from your base.html. So how can you extend content from your base.html? So what you need to do now is to just say extend. So all those are Jinja 2 templating language syntax, and it is not that complex. So HTML, and also you can give it a space percent sign. So what this does is it actually extend the contents from the base.html. So it will extend it right inside of index.html. You can save your work, and now you can head back and access your block head and your block body. So to access that, you can just say block head, and right here, and I'll say end block. So percent sign, make sure your percent sign is there. So end block. And what this enable you is to have access to the info in the head tag here. So you can add your title right inside of it. So now what I need to do is to just add my title. The title can be index page, right? The title can be index page. And now you can come down and also access the body tag. For you to access the body tag, you can see block body. Make sure your percent sign is there. And also you can also see end block. So end block. And now what you can do is you can actually write the body of your page. So what I want my body to be is probably just h1, and I can say hello new body, right? Anything you want to add. Now we can save our work. So right before we open our browser to see the changes, if it is working, you can also do similar to the update page. So I can just copy the info here, head over to the update page, and paste it there. So we can say hello new update page. Save your work. Right now, what all this does is you can see we are not repeating the head, we are not repeating all the contents here. So if we want to add our styling, we can add only our styling base.html without adding it other pages. So this is what Ginger 2 provides, and it helps us with that. So the next thing we need to do is to actually render this update page. So for us to render the update page, we can actually copy the info right here, right? And you can just see at app.route. So at app, create a new page. So the route, so it can be slash update, and we can now see dev update. About that, dev update. So return render render on the template. Now what we need to do is to actually render the update.html. What you need to do next is to save your work and actually open your browser to access the pages we have created. All right, so right here I'm in my browser. All I need to just do is load, and you can see it works. So you can see hello new body here, and I think once we head over to the slash update page, you should be able to instead of update just be update, and you can see we have hello new update page. So you can see the Ginger 2 template page has helped us in actually reducing repetitive tasks. So basically we are not carrying the doc type, we're carrying the head tag, probably the CSS linking will be future. So we are not doing it continuously in other pages. So that's how easy it is to actually set up a HTML page and also render it in the views. So this will be the end of this section. We can move on to creating the static file and others. All right. So earlier we were able to add the templates, and also we were able to create the base.html file and other pages, right? So we're able to display it in our browser, which is actually good. And right now I'll show you how to add CSS, that static files, to this HTML files that you have created. So it's pretty easy, and let me quickly show you how to do that. So the first thing you need to do is to actually click on create new folder icon. And once you click on it, you need to give it the name of static. So it must be static. So once you've given it the name of static, you can now create your folder. So after creating your folder, you have to then click on it and create a new folder inside of it. So once you create a new folder inside of it, you need to now call it CSS. So this is where we would add the CSS files inside of the project. So CSS. And after creating the CSS folder, then you need to now click on the CSS folder and create a new file right inside of the CSS folder. So you can give it a name, any name you want. So I want to call it style.css. So after giving the style.css, this is where you can add your CSS changes that you want to add. So probably your CSS code. And this is what I would do. So I'll call body. I just want to give body margin. Margin can be 0, and probably font family. Font family can be sans serif. Save. So now after adding your CSS file and adding your code, how would you be able to make it show in those files, these your HTML files? It's pretty simple. All you need to do is to head over to your base.html. You know, it's your base.html that other HTML file are going to inherit from. So this is where we are to add the CSS linking. So what you need to do here is to now link your CSS file into this HTML file. So this is how you're going to link it. So you need to use the link tag first. So you need to use the link tag. Right side of the link tag, you need to say where is equal to style sheet. So we have to make sure it's called style sheet. And after calling in style sheet, the next thing you need to do is to now add your href. So once you add your href, you now need to add the link to your CSS file that you have created right inside of your project. So this is how you're going to do it inside of Flask using Ginger 2. So you need to create like this first, and you need to say URL_4. So this URL_4 will be the one to link it. And right side of the URL_4, you have to open it and also say static inside of it. So this is a Ginger 2 way of actually linking your CSS file to your HTML file. Then now you have to specify the file name after doing that. So file name would then be equal to the link to your CSS directory. So this is how you can link it. So you can say CSS. You know, we have CSS. We have a CSS folder right side of static, then /style.css. So you have to say this directory here. You can see CSS style.css, right? So that's basically how you can link to that directory, right? So now what you need to do is to close it, and this is basically how you can link your href. You can link your href to your CSS file, right? So after doing this, what you need to do is to close the link tag and confirm. So we said link, the rel will be style sheet, then the href will link back to your CSS directory. So which we said URL for static, then we added the file name which said CSS, the CSS folder, and the style sheet of CSS. So all right, after doing this, what you need to do now is to start your server. And here you can see my server is already on, and what I'm going to do now is to open my browser and show you the changes that was made. All right, so here you can see in my browser the changes has been made, and you can see the hello new body has changed to sans serif font family we added. And this is basically how you can add your static file. You can link it to your HTML file that you have created in the template, and yeah, you can actually beautify your project the way you want. But in this video I'll be using Bootstrap, which I'm going to do in the background. And in the next chapter, you'll see all the changes I've made to the design. And if you actually want the design that I actually did with Bootstrap, I will also place the link down in the description for you to check and use it. So this will be the end of this section. Thank you. All right. So earlier I showed you how to add your static file and also link it to your HTML file, right, that is right inside of your templates. And right here, I've already added some E2 Bootstrap configurations. So you can see this is a link to the Bootstrap CDN, which I will be using in this video. And also you can see I've made some updates to my index page. I have added a form and also a blog post. This is actually a dummy blog post. This is not coming from any database, but after this section, I'll show you how we can get data from the database. And also you can see this is the update page, which I've added a little bit of styling from Bootstrap. If you want this code, you can actually check the description. You see the link to the code where you can get the Bootstrap changes I made. Now, what we need to do is to actually save our work, and let me show you how it looks like in the browser. All right. So right here in my browser, you can see this is the designs I made. It is pretty basic, and the reason why I did not show you how this was done in the video was because it is not the focus of the video. The main focus is to actually learn Flask itself, not Bootstrap. So you can see what I did there is just pretty basic. You can see the U blog heading here. You can see the form that says title and description. It also has a submit button, and this is not functional at the moment. You can see method not allowed. And you can also see we have a blog post. We have just the dummy date, the dummy blog post. You can also delete blog posts, but this is not functional at the moment until we add the functionality. Also, you can see no blog post under here. I'll show you why I added this as we move on into the video. And this is basically all you need to know about the design that was made. And also we have a page which is called the update page, so slash update. Let me quickly show you how it looks like. You can see the update your blog page is just a form, and which has update me dummy data, and submit. So we are going to be making all this functional with Flask, and this is basically the end of this section. All right. So far we have been able to cover a lot, ranging from adding templates, adding static files, connecting to database, and I believe you have learned a lot. Even if you don't get all what I have gone through at once, you can always come back to it to actually watch again and understand. So right now we would be diving into what I call writing the view functions. So basically this view function, like I mentioned earlier, which is the def index, this view function would be the one talking to the database, sending queries to the database either to get data or to add data. So let's quickly dive right into it. The first view function would be the list view. So this list view will be the one to query the database and get each blog post that we have in the database. And this view function would be written under the index page here. So basically it will be on the index page, right? So let me quickly show you how to query the database. So right inside of your index function here, what you need to do is to just add a get blog variable to get blogs. So this will be the query that will actually talk to the database and get each blog post. So you can now say blog, so which is the name of the model here, the blog dot query dot all. So what this query does is actually to talk to the database and get all the blog posts we have added into the database. So we can also move forward to actually order each blog post, like the order we want. We can order it by the date time, we can order it by the ID or something like that. But I want us to just use the blog.query.all. And what next you need to do is to actually open your render underscore template. So inside of your render underscore template, you can add a comma here and say post would be equal to get underscore blogs. So with this, we'll be able to, in the index.html, we'll be able to use this post to get each blog post. So you can see we use the blog get blogs here. So what you need to do now is to head over to your index.html, because it is inside of the index.html. That's how you'll be able to access this post. All right. So once you open your index.html, you can now head over to the point whereby you would actually display each content. So you can see this is where we are going to display its content, right? So what you need to do now is to use the Ginger templating language to actually write some queries. So the first thing I want to do is to check if there is actually a blog post. So what you need to do is to say if posts. Remember I mentioned posts. So the post, this is where we are going to access inside of the template, right? So I mentioned post and we are checking if there is post. You can see this just look like a pure Python code. And for every if statement you add, you must add a else statement to it, and also you must add end if statement to it. So I want to say if there is post, you should display this content, else it should display no blog post at the moment, right? So what I need to do now is to say else no blog post. So you can see this is why I added the no blog post, so you can save. So the next thing you need to do is for every if statement you add, you must add or correspond, like you must add a end if, right? So this is where you add the end if at the end of your statement. So end if. So now that we have added the end if, we are currently checking if there is a blog post, right? So after checking if there is a blog post, we need to then loop through those blog posts, right? There will be a lot of blog posts that will be inside of the database. So the next thing you need to do is to write on top of the hello world. So the next thing you need to do is to say, you need to use the for statements. So you need to say for blog. So remember, this blog will be a variable in post, so which is this post. Then now you can now display the content. So you can now say blog dot title, right? So this will get the blog dot title, while this would be the description, right? So now you can just clear off this. Let me quickly clear it off. See. So here we can now use the blog dot content. So I believe it is blog dot content we use. If not, we'll check again to confirm. Blog dot content. And now we need to display the date, right? So now for the date, we need to say blog dot date underscore created. I believe that's the name we give it in the model. Dot date again. So it will be dot date. So we want the date. I can now close this, save. So let me quickly head back to my app.py to confirm. So ID, title, content, and date. So it's supposed to be date instead of date created. So date dot date. So you get a date, right? So this is basically how you can use the for statements in it. And like I mentioned, just like we used end if, we can also use end for. So for the end for, we need to say add it here. End for statement. Save. So basically what we have done here is we checked if there is a blog, if there are articles in the database, so which is the if statement. Then now we looped through the database to check, like we looped through the database to get each blog post, which we then access it here and said blog.title, blog.content, blog.date.date. Then this is the form, and we said end for. So also this is the else, which said no blog post, and end if. So what we need to do now is to save our work, head back to the app.py, save your work, and you need to open your browser to see the result of what we have done. All right. So here we are in my browser, and you can actually see we just have no blog post. So earlier we had the blog content, the dummy content we had. So remember we removed it and added the for statement. So now you can see we are only just seeing no blog post. So this is basically how you can query the database to get list of your datas, and also add it to your templates to play it in your browser. So this is basically how you can do that. And the next one would be how to add data. So how to add it to the database using the form. All right. So earlier we were able to query our database to get the list of blog posts that we have in it, and it was successful. So now I would quickly show you how you can add using the form that was displayed in our homepage. So what you need to do now is to create a new view function. So it will be at app.route. And now the route would be /add /add. So this is basically how the route would be. And what next you need to do is to add a method. So the method will be a post method because we are adding data to the database. So we'll be posting the data. So you can now say method. Mind you, it has to be capital letter. So post method. So basically, this is the method that will be posting the data through the form, and it will be a post request. All right. So now you need to add the function, which will be def add_blog. You can give it any other name you want, but I want it to be def add_blog. And now this is where the main logic would be. So the first thing we need to do is to actually get the title and the content from the form. So that's basically what we need. So we need to say get_title. So that's the first thing we need to do. And also get_content. Right? So this is basically what we need to do. So after we have gotten the title and the content, the next thing we need to do is to say new blog on the new_blog is equal to blog. So we can now say title. So this is how we would add the title. So title would now be equal to get_title. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to do here. So the blog, you can see the model is above. So we're following the model structure. And also the content would then be get_content. Right? So this is basically what we need to do. So now after doing this, you now need to add you need to say db.session add the new blog, right? So right before we do that, you can head over to your home page. So once you head over to your home page, we can actually find a form here. So what we need to do next is to specify the action for the form. So the action for the form would be /add, which is that view function I mentioned there. And what next we need to do is to check for the name. So this is the title, right? And this is the label for the title. This is the content. This is the label. So what we need to do now is to give it a name, which already is here. So name is equal to title. And for the content, we also say the name is equal to the content. And also we also have the submit button here. So we have gotten what we want. We have added the action. We have the name, which is title and content. So what you need to do now is to head back to your app.py And what you need to do is to say request.form dot get. So this dot get will actually get the name of that form, so which is title. Remember we saw title there, so that's what we are going to use. So if you don't have your name, you need to set the name to title or whatever name you want. So we also have request dot form dot get the content. So you can see this is highlighting. So what we need to do next is to just import. So you need to import this request. So after importing it, you will see that not be there anymore. So you can save your work now. And what we need to do now is to use a try except. So try, you can say try db dot session dot add. So this db dot session will add the new blog post that we created, new underscore blog. Right? So this is what it's going to do. So after adding it, you need to actually commit what you have added. So you need to say db dot session dot commit. So this will commit it and add it to the database itself. So we need to redirect back to that home page where the list of articles we have will display. So you need to say return redirect. So there's something called redirect that we are going to use. So for you to use redirect, you need to import it also. So redirect. So we are importing all this from Flask. Remember, we are importing all this from Flask. So once you say redirect, we want to redirect to this route. Remember, this route. So the home page route, we have redirected to the home page route. So now let's add the except. So if that does not happen, we should have a except for it. So if that does not happen, we can actually return something. So let's return there was no blog post, or there was an issue. You can see there was an issue creating your article or your blog post. So let me quickly show you what we have done. So what we're able to do is to get the title from the form, which we did, and also we got the content from the form. So after getting the content, we added it. We used it to create from the model. So you remember we have the blog model. So we added it to the blog model. And after adding it to the blog model, we need to actually add it from the DB, right? So db.session.add and also commit it to the database. So this commit actually add it automatically to the database. And you can actually see after adding it to the database, we'll return back to the home page. So now that we have added it, we can now save our work. Open your terminal and try run again. So now that you have run, we can now open our browser to see the result of what we have done. All right, so here you can see I'm in my browser and this is the project. So let's try add a blog post. So I say the title should be Git, and let's just give it like a dummy value for the description. So once I submit, you can see our blog post has been added to the list, and you can actually see the date too. So yeah, I'm happy about this. And the next functionality we'll be adding would be the update, and after the update, final one would be the delete. All right. So earlier we're able to add blog posts to our projects, and right now I'm going to show you how we would be able to delete blog posts. So for the delete blog post, it's going to be a little bit different from the add blog post that we did. So the first thing we need to do is to say at app.route, and once you see dot route, same way we do it, we have to set the route, so it will be /delete. But now it would be a bit different. So we need to say forward slash int ID. So, or I don't get confused. I would explain once I'm done. Now, the next thing we need to do is to say def delete, so the name of the function, delete blog. And now we want to get the ID. And after that, you can now say blog to delete. So that will be the name of the blog to delete. And you can now query it. So we can say blog dot query dot get. So we are going to get that. So get or underscore 404. If it does not get if it does not get the blog, return a 404 error. The blog dot query dot get underscore or 404 ID. So where does this ID come from? So basically, this ID will come from the index page. So once you head over to the index page, you can look for the delete button. This is the delete button, right? So the action is going to redirect to the function we're creating for it. So slash delete forward slash then the int, right? ID. And the method would be get. ID. And the method would be get. So for this ID, how can we get the ID? So remember, we still have access to blog.title, right? We still have access to blog.content. So what we need to do here is to actually just add it there. So you can now say blog.id and we are going to get the ID, right? Save. So once you save, so now we are able to access this blog.id here as a function. So remember, it's going to use this delete blog, whatever, and we're going to access it here. So that's why we are also able to access at this point. So after getting it, we can also use the try except and say db. We have to just query the database to actually delete it, and we are going to commit it also. So db.session dot delete blog to delete. And remember, just like we did here, after adding it, we also commit. So we can also do that here and say db.session dot commit. So we have committed it, and now we can now return the redirect to the home page, just like we did before. So redirect, return redirect to the home page. You can now save your work. But before I save, I just need to add the except. So for the except, we can return anything you want. So unable to delete blog post. So that is if anything occur, just return unable to delete blog post. But this should work. So what we have done is to query the database to get the ID. And after that, we say db.session to delete and db.session commit. That's to add. And in the index, all we just needed was to get the blog.id here, which will actually go back to this function. So once I save my work and head over to the browser and let's try it out. All right. So right here, you can see I'm in my browser and let's quickly try out the delete functionality. So let me first of all add something as git one or hit one, anyone, and submit to add. So let's delete this hit one. So once I click on the delete button, and wow, you can see deleted it. So that's basically how to add the delete functionality. And up next is we are going to be adding the update functionality. So stay tuned. All right, guys, we are currently in the final stage of the video, and over here we would need to actually write out the update functionality for this blog. And the update functionality is kind of similar to the add blog and delete blog. So we're kind of like combining both functionalities together to get the update functionality. So let's quickly dive right into it so I can show you how we can write the update functionality. So to write out the update functionality, all you just need to do is to head over to the route. We would need to get the ID first. So just like we did right in the delete block functionality, we need to get the int ID, right? So how on earth can we get this ID since the update page is on another place, not even on the index page? So I'll show you how you can do just that. So after doing this, we also need to add method. So that's why I said we are combining the add block and the delete block. So we're going to add a method. So which the method would be the combination of both get and post. So methods is equal to post, and also outside of it would also accept the get, right? So that's basically how method is going to be. And I want to change the name to update log, and we would also need to receive the ID. So right before we start adding the other logics, let me quickly show you how we can get this ID. So you have to head over to your index.html page. You have to locate the update link we added, which so I'll show you after we have done everything. So over here, you need to add the link. So you need to link it to the update slash then the ID. So you have to know that this update is inside of this for loop here, right? So we still have access to the blog, right? So what you need to do is to just say blog.id, right? So now once we click on this, it will take us to another page that says localhost slash update slash the number. That's the ID, right? So through that method, we'll be able to get it in the view function. So we'll be able to get it here. So that's basically how easy it is to get your ID. So once you get the ID now, you can now access it. So what we are going to do now is we're going to say blog, the blog variable. We're going to query from the database, right? Blog.query .get underscore or underscore 404, then the ID. So we want to get the ID. So if we're able to get the ID, we'll be able to access other data that are inside of that ID, right? So if we're saying ID1, ID1 has the title, as ID1 has its own description, ID1 has its own date. So through this method, we're able to access the other data, right? So what you need to do now is to check if the request or method is a post method. If it's a post method, you then link it to the blog.title. So let me show you how you're going to do that. So you're going to say if request dot method is equal to a post method. A post method, right? So this is it. You can now say this blog, right? You're going to say this blog inside of it. Coming, let me go back. So you're going to say blog dot title. So you can see we can access it and edit it, right? I can also say blog dot content here, right? So mind you, the update page has its own form. So we're going to request from that form, right? So we're going to say request dot form. 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 So So now we have to access the name of that form, right? Let's head over to the update page. Let's see. You can see the action of this update page. We have to link it to the update view. So let's link it. We have to say update, right? Slash then the ID. So int. So the ID is always an integer. So we have to say ID, right? You remember that we access the ID here, so we don't need to do it like that. So what we just need to do is to just say, instead of doing this, you can now say this blog dot ID, since we have access to it now, right? Now have access to it. So after that, you have to locate the name of your form. So we have the title here. The name is title, right? And we also have the description, which is content. So the name is content. So let's head back to our app. So now we can now say access the title, since we have seen that the name of the form is title. So also for the content, we can see request dot form, then content. Right. So that's basically how easy it is to access it. So after accessing it, now you can now commit or save to your database. So we're going to now we're going to use the try except that we used here. We're also going to use it here. So we're going to say try. So we're going to say db.session.commit. So we're just going to commit it. So after committing it, we'll need to actually redirect to the home page. So since it was successful, we just return, redirect to the home page. I know the home page is just /, right? So the try has its own like accept. So accept, and the accept would be return. It will return unable to update blog post. That's basically how easy it is. And remember, this is like under the if statement. So, and I said every if statement has its own else statement. Sorry. So I just say else here. So else, then this can come, right? So this can come here. So what you need to do now is say blog is equal to blog, right? So now we have access to the blog, so we're going to give access to it, the update.html to blog. So that's why I added this here, because I got the blog. So now once you have access to the ID, also you can also populate the form value. So you can also populate the form value, right? So you can also see blog dot title. So you just need to populate the form value so it will be easy to edit. So instead of update me for the description, right, which is the content, you can also see blog dot content. So we have already populated like that. And all we just need to do is to save all the changes we've made. Save for the index. Save for this. And we need to start our server. So how you need to start your server is just python app.py. Let's wait for it to run. And you can see the server is on. So what I need to do next is to just open my browser, and yeah, let's see if this is going to run. All right, so here you can see I'm in my browser, and let's quickly test the update functionality. So let's update this. So once I click on update, you can see it populated the value for me. So it populated the value for the title, and it also populated the value for the description. So let me just rename this to git hooks. So once I rename it to git hooks and I save, you can see it redirected me back to the index page, and you can see it has updated. So we have been able to create functionality read functionality, delete functionality, and update functionality. And this would be the end of the video. If you want more video contents like this, you can request for it in the description. If you have any review for this video, you can also drop the comments down below. The link to this code will be in the description, just like I mentioned during the video. And if you want to also connect with me, you can connect with me on Twitter via AdeboyeDN and all other social media via AdeboyeDN. So thank you for watching, and I can't wait to upload more video contents like this. Bye.